Okay, we're live. Let's try it again.
Okay, and can we pull Senator Reagan in?
I'm just gonna do it.
Okay.
I still, Josh, I still don't have,
And we don't have any attendees.
yeah.
Okay, I'll hop out and I'll see if I hop back in. I don't know if it's just as everybody would have gotten kicked out at this
Right,
point. So I
that's-
don't know if it's just a matter of people trying to rejoin. So I'll leave and then I'll try to join as attendee and see if I show up.
Okay. Okay, they're coming back now. Yep, here they are. Okay, Senator Daniels, I think we're okay.
Okay, do we have Senator Reagan?
Let's look. Not unless he's a telephone number. He's not in here yet. Nope, not yet. I'll text Kathy. Oh. Okay, I've asked Josh to try to get a hold of Senator Reagan.
I see I should change my name from Jennifer Gallagher.
You are, Jen-
How did I just notice that?
you're now Jennifer Gallagher.
I don't know if I can change that.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
Huh,
I might be able to. I might be
No,
able,
I can do it,
Your secret identity.
right. Odd. Okay,
Okay, Senator Reagan should be with us momentarily.
okay, thank you. Senator Daniels, you don't have any questions for Commissioner Quinn on this bill?
Not on this one, no.
Thank you.
We'll take up, we'll address the next one for him.
Yep. I've got sheriffs that want to speak too.
Okay. And I think we have questions for them.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me bring him in. Excuse me. Thank you,
Okay,
Senator Reagan.
thank you. All right, so when we last We got, just before we got dropped, Senator Reagan had stated that he did not feel that things should be upshifted to the state. So we're on Senate Bill 96. I believe that there is an amendment on the floor, a proposed committee amendment that would limit the amount that the state pays toward the purchase of new or replacement equipment for body cams and other cameras up to 50%. So that's where we are right now. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will take roll call. We have the amendment before us. It's would be a committee amendment for up to 50% in the fund to provide to local communities. So we'll start the voting. Senator Morse,
He's on mute. Senator
on
Moore.
Yes, 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 yes.
Senator Gaida,
Happens to the best of us. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
No.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
No,
and the chair votes yes, and the amendment carries. Okay, we're now on to the bill as amended. Any further
Passes
discussion?
amended.
Motion by Senator Gaida
second,
to move Senate Bill 96 ought to pass as amended. That's seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Any discussion?
I
There
same
being-
comment that this, no good can come of this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, we'll call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes,
Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
No.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
yes,
and Senator Daniels votes yes. Motion carries 6-1. And Senator Gaida, did you want to take this out?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Consent? No,
No.
6-1. Never mind.
No.
Never mind. Never
No.
mind.
Okay, the next one I'd like to go to is Senate Bill 141. This is relative to the procedure for conducting firearm background checks. And I know that we have the Commissioner Quinn is standing by. I had sent some questions to the commissioner and asked him to address those, and I believe they were answers sent to each one. We'll let Commissioner Quinn get on.
Okay.
Okay, he's on. Okay, Commissioner, did you send out the answers to those questions to all members?
I believe they were forwarded to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, just me?
Yes, sir. And just so everybody's aware, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of Senate Finance. Bob Quinn, Commissioner of Safety. I'm also joined.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Senator
point of
Gaida?
order.
Senator
We're in
Gaida?
executive session, and there was no notice given of any testimony to be provided.
I had instructed that I had asked them to be available for questions. I had specifically said that there would be no testimony.
Then I would suggest that we ask questions and get answers.
Okay, and I was just, what I had just doing was seeing if all the members had received the questions, which evidently you did not. So.
I did.
Who did it come from, Mr. Chairman?
Where did the questions come from?
No, who did the answers to the questions
I believe
come from?
Steve
From you?
Lavoy, I believe.
I mean, to us.
Well, from what I heard the commissioner say, that apparently they were just sent back to me.
Oh, okay.
So what I will do is I will run through the questions that I have so that you have the answers too.
Thank you.
So Commissioner, it was my understanding that the gun line was put in place to be a bridge while the NICS database was being built. Is that correct?
So Senator, I just wanted to let the committee know, I have other members of my team that joined in. I just wanted to disclose that. So there are others, I don't know if you can see them or not, that from my team that have also joined the call.
Could you identify them so that we could bring them in?
Yep. So, and I forward that to Ms. Martone. So I've got Attorney Marta Modigliani. She's our Chief Legal Counsel. I've got Major John Marasco and Lieutenant Mike McQuaid, who have direct oversight of the Permits and Licensing Unit, commonly referred to as the gun line. So they've joined me today. I just want to make sure every question we had the expert here that could answer it. So they are with us.
Senator Daniels, I'm not sure we can have more than one person speaking at a time. So I think that Commissioner Quinn should continue, and then we can put his other personnel on.
I think I should be fine. I just wanted to let you know who was here with me.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. So do you know the answer regarding
So-
the purpose of the gun line?
Yeah, so the direct question was, do I have firsthand knowledge that when it was instituted, it was done as the purpose of being a bridge when NICS is up and running? And the answer that I have no direct knowledge of the legislative intent behind the establishment of the gun line. 159C was passed into law in 1994 to become effective January 1 of 95, giving the department the authority to conduct criminal history record and protective order checks for sale of handguns by dealers, and made an appropriation for this purpose. Licensed dealers were then required to use a premium telephone call-in service to request that the department conduct such check. RSA 159.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
Senator Gaida?
I believe the Senate has voted on the content of the bill. This is to discuss finance. Am I correct?
It bears to the point of finance because I'd like to establish whether there was a financial reason to put the gun line in place, or if the purpose was to bridge the gap between the development of the NICS system, why we have held it in place, and if there's any reason to continue to fund that going forward. So it's just trying to get some background information regarding the finances, because that's what finance is looking at is the cost of having it here. But there may be a cost that's verifiable as to why we should have that, and I'm just trying to determine that reason. Please continue, Commissioner.
Sure, I'm sorry.
For the record, Mr. Chairman, I object. For the record, just
Thank
for the
you.
record.
Thank
I
you,
think this
Senator
is
Gaida.
proper. This is talking to the content of the bill. It's not talking to the cost of the bill.
Thank you, Senator Gaida.
RSA 159C was repealed in 1998. RSA 159D was enacted in 1999 to allow the Department of Safety to become the point of contact for the federal government for purpose of NICS. So I do not have direct knowledge going back to 1994 in that. And that's the legislative history of where we are today, sir.
Okay, thank you. What is the total cost of running the gun line today?
And I got this from my Director of Administration, $883,000 in FY '22 and $920,000 in FY '23.
My understanding is that in order to handle the backlog, that 8 troopers have been pulled off the roads in order to handle that, and that the backlog has been considerably reduced. What is the plan once the backlog is taken care of? Do those troopers go back to the road? And if so, what is your plan? Do you need more personnel or not
Yeah,
to continue?
yes, sir. And just to clean up my response, that is not for the gun line, the 883 and the 920. That's for the entire permits and licensing unit, which also does, separate from the gun line, security guards and agencies licensing, private investigator licensing, bail recovery agency licensing, explosive storage handling licensing, and the out-of-state pistol permits. So I just wanted to make sure you're clear, they're commingled costs. So the
Okay.
gun line is included within those other 5 permits and licensing duties for that unit. And
Go ahead.
just want to make sure if there's any questions on that, on the funding, because I know this is directed at total funding for that. It's a unit. The gun line is a service within the unit.
Okay. So going back to my question about using the 8 troopers, are you going to need additional personnel to replace them?
Sure, yes, so pre-COVID, we had the staffing was 7 full-time and 3 part-time pre-COVID. And that's for a 363-day-a-year operation from 8 in the morning till approximately 9 o'clock at night. As stated, during the surge, the increase, we temporarily assigned a total of 17 in there at one point. Today, we have 6 temporary duty full-time and 2 temporary duty part-time. So the plan is in the upcoming budget to request 3 full-time positions. And obviously a plan to move those troopers back to their road. So how will we do it? So the plan moving forward is, and again, we've made some considerable, I'd say, improvements addressing the backlog. And some of the ways we've done it is by addressing and narrowly defining the scope of what these searches are, which isn't in statute. So we did that, and I provided the memo to you, sir, on that. And we'll be making technology improvements, improving our records in criminal history. What does that mean, improving our records? So anything that's a disqualifier, if it's duly noted in the criminal history and uploaded to NICS from our criminal records unit, then it will be in the NICS index. But I would say we have no confidence in the New Hampshire criminal history because not all of them have been uploaded to NICS. And as you know, not all convictions have been fingerprint-based supported, which also would not be included in NICS. So we're going to improve our records in CHRI, Criminal History Repository, improving the reporting of those prohibited records to the NICS index. With complete records and better technology, our turnaround times and backlog will improve tremendously. Federal grants are available for necessary technological improvements. We've also made progress improving now that we have not required new staff or technology today. And these have improved our turnaround times tremendously. We've cross-trained employees and quite honestly, we've simplified the process. For example, one person now can handle an entire call from intake through disposition, as opposed to the past where one person took a request and another person processed the request, another person called the requester back. You know, in short, we've looked at the whole process: telephone calls, calls that go unanswered, some FFLs that make a phone call, some that will send in a fax, and again, our staffing Within the last 48 hours, we've really looked at our phone system. How many lines do we have? We're looking at utilizing some DMV, I would say resources, call center resources, and licenses to allow for more phone lines. So the plan moving forward, sir, does not include these troopers. The plan moving forward would be to add 3 civilians in the budget and to really fine tune the process, look at technology where that can improve the process, and address obviously the peak times where there are surges. So, and again, during COVID, we had a 60 to 70% increase. We dealt with significant staffing issues. We had many that unfortunately became ill in that unit. And I think once we put a team of state troopers on it, led by the Colonel and Major Marasco, and really looked at the entire process, streamlined our policy for what we do and why, I think that we've made some significant strides. But again, I'd like to say, I just want
Chairman?
I'm sorry, sir.
Senator Gaida?
What is this? I'm waiting for some numbers. We're talking about policy and we're talking about staffing. We're not talking about costs. We're digressing again, and I object.
Thank you.
I
This is
think
testimony for the House, not for the Senate.
Commissioner?
I think I've answered that question.
Okay. Knowing that that we're already paying for the federal through our income taxes, can you give any justification as to why we should continue to pay the money to duplicate things at the state level?
Okay, well, yeah, and this is where I just want to be clear. I know I've had conversations with several people over this, but the question is asked, what is the difference? What is the difference between the check that the permits and licensing and the gun line currently does and can do, and what does the FBI do? And in response to that, again, I think it's important for everyone to understand that the New Hampshire State Police gun line background check is covering 2 more areas than the FBI NICS check currently does. Checking our state criminal history database provides access to records that are possibly prohibiting, but do not appear on all IIIs and those records that are not fingerprint supported. So what does that mean? What that means is this: could there be a conviction in New Hampshire, a state conviction, on a simple assault, or say, for example, a disorderly conduct misdemeanor that could be prohibited federally, but is not in the NICS index? And the answer is yes. And we do catch those. I can't tell you exactly how many for each right now, but we do a closer check on our own criminal history. And the checks that are done federally are only as good as what is imported into the system. So we do, understanding that we have not done a good job getting all of the New Hampshire convictions into NICS. There's more work that needs to be done there. We double check and verify that those convictions are not disqualified. Additionally, and it's important to understand that we verify a NICS indices hits with the corresponding record. For example, we have a series of NICS indices hits for federal prohibition 922 G9, misdemeanor crime and domestic violence, says does not meet the federal criteria of victim relationship. The FBI will deny those transactions without doing research. The NHSP gun line will put those in delay and verify the victim relationship information before making that determination. If we're able to obtain documentation from the NICS indices is erroneous, we'll remove them from the entry and update the New Hampshire criminal history. The other area is this: we receive a list from the administrative office of the courts for, and I want to say again, the number I keep hearing is it averages between 40 and 60 of subjects in New Hampshire that have protective orders, but there is not enough information, for example, the date of birth for that protective order to be loaded into the federal system. So we get that list faxed from the AOC to the permits and licensing unit, and I believe it comes daily. So we cross-check against that. So in short, we do a lot of what Nix does with those 2 additional steps, which are included in more detail in that memo that I forwarded Senator Daniels on the policy.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the commissioner? Senator Hennessy.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Quinn, for joining us today. So just to repeat for my own brain here. So when the state police checks the background, you use the NICS system as well as additional checks, is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep, we do the same check. But let's just say as we're doing it, we see a simple assault conviction in New Hampshire in a court. It might not be a disqualifier in the federal system, but our team will go request a copy of the report from that agency to look more into it to see if there was a domestic violence component in there, which would be a disqualifier. Now, in a perfect system, if every one of those prohibitors, whether, for example, driving under the influence of liquor is not a disqualifier, driving under the influence of drugs within the last 12 months might be. So if they see a DWI conviction, they may look to see, further check to see, is it a disqualifier or isn't it? So we don't have, 100% confidence in our own state records. So we check those to see if they would be a prohibitor, but they haven't been uploaded into NICS.
Any further questions for the commissioner? Senator Gaida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
what authority does the gun line have to do any checks in addition to accessing NICS?
Well, there's really, if you look at the statute, it just says we may be the point of contact. So that's why we developed our policy. So quite honestly, I'm unaware, by law, that's why internally we developed, in concert with the Attorney General's office, what we thought was I would say, reasonable to both safety and to getting access to those who want to purchase a firearm. In other words, like the system that would be the safest is if we checked NICS, queried our list from the AOC, and did 50 individual state checks to see if there was a conviction in there that was a disqualifier that might not have been fingerprint-based supported and uploaded into NICS. But again, as you know, that would do nothing but, make our backlogs longer. So this new check, I thought was a big improvement, but I don't believe, and I have Marta on, I don't think there's anything, sir, defined in statute which says how what's the extent.
Thank you. Further
So it
questions?
would be safe to say that, follow up?
Yes.
Thank you. Is it true that issues with the domestic violence records are because of the records that are incorrectly kept by either the court system or the state police gun line or the system within the state police?
I don't know if I understand the question. Which problem, sir, are you speaking about? The one that I just referenced is subjects that have orders, but they are not in the federal system because the courts don't have the required information to upload them. So it would be just not having the name and date of birth and identifying on the suspect. That's the one area.
Is that true only of temporary restraining orders, or temporary orders rather?
I don't believe so. I think that is, that quite frankly is they just don't have the information, the name, the proper date of birth. So I don't know if it's, I can't speak to which ones, but I know there's 40 to 60. And once that information is received, they should come off that list and get uploaded. And I know that the courts can upload that information themselves as well into the index. Did that answer your question, sir?
No, but we'll press on. Follow up if I may.
Follow up?
Commissioner, are you familiar with the letter that I sent back on the 13th of January that you answered? And in that letter, I asked what was the cost of the extra state police? And it was about $182,000. Right? And to fix a system that has in fact released guns to people that have had police officers shot in our state. Is that correct?
Oh, I don't feel comfortable to comment on that.
Well, it is a fact. And so let's get talking to dollars.
Can I have a follow-up? What is a fact? What is
If
the
you read the
fact?
newspapers, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
That the gun line has released guns?
the gun line released an individual to purchase guns, okay, that then subsequently shot 2 police officers.
I can't comment on any cases involving the state where there could be litigation, so I'm not going to comment on that.
Thank you. Senator Gaida, further question?
Yeah. Would you speak to the total percentage of the gun line's work that's related to handguns for FFLs and for the court interrelationships? In other words, of your budget, what percentage of your either your time or your money
Sure.
goes to the gun line function of doing FFL checks or checks for domestic violence and those things that are involved with the court system?
I don't have that offhand, but I think the question is, how many checks are we required to do for the courts for the return of the firearms? I have those numbers, but not right here in front of me. And I'm happy to share that with you. We can give you a number annually of how many we have to return to the court.
Right. The number is, if I may, Mr. Chairman, it's less than 500. And that's according to Mr. Head, who's the legislative person for the courts. I have no further questions.
Another question? Yes, go ahead. Senator Gaida?
No, I said I have no further questions.
Oh,
Thank
no
you.
further. I'm sorry. I do have one follow-up question, Commissioner. Is it even feasible or possible that a dealer would be able to choose to use the state or the federal?
Well, they use the federal now for the long guns.
I'm not asking what they're doing now.
Yeah.
I understand that long guns and rifles go through the federal and handguns go through the state.
Sure.
Is it possible to change the law so that if somebody wished to do handguns through the federal that they could, or if they wish to do handguns through the state that they could?
Sure. I don't even know if it requires a legislative change. The law right now just says the state may be the point of contact. So legally, and I would, defer to the Attorney General's office, but I don't know if the legislation is even required. I have asked internally my team to reach out to the CJIS folks and say, what would the process be if this function was to go away from the permits and licensing and to the FBI? What work would need to be done? So I don't have an answer. We had looked at that, I believe, in 2019, and I don't think it says. And again, I don't want to speak for them, but I think there's a process that would have to take place to, a migration from going from one to the other. But again, I would defer to the legal experts on it as to, what the law says now and what would be required to move in another direction.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions for the committee for the Department of Safety? Senator Gaida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, a comment. The FBI is ready right now to make the connections for FFLs to directly go and for the court system to directly input DV information. But without sharing the information that you're withholding from the feds right now, a prohibited person could get a shotgun or a rifle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I have a follow-up?
You may.
Just for point of clarification, I believe that the ex parte orders are going in, but I specifically asked if this 40 to 60 list we have could be uploaded into Nix without a date of birth. And the answer that I received was no. So I think that you would want to just verify that yourselves, but that list we have is separate.
Senator Gaida?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it not true that when the orders are served on a person, it's served by a police officer who probably could get the date of birth from the individual when they serve them to make sure they're serving the right person?
Yes, sir.
And can you attest to why that's not happening?
I can't, but I just can tell you that for several years, this list has existed. So to your point, could better work be done? But I can't speak to each example of what the victim, relationship is and why all the information isn't there. I can just tell you that it does exist and it has existed.
Follow up?
Follow up?
Without a date of birth, Commissioner, how can you block someone? You don't know who they are.
They do more research.
So it's very possible that we're blocking legitimate people from gaining things because someone's not doing the job of getting a date of birth when they're serving the papers on a person that's been given a DV order.
Yeah.
Correct?
I would agree with you. Well, the best information is to research this and identify the person by a name and date of birth. But I can't speak to each case, but I would agree with you, yes. But I would not speak for my team downstairs. I would have faith that they would do more research to ensure that a first name and a last name wasn't blocked if it was not the person that was the subject of the protective order.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there anyone online from the sheriffs?
Yes. I believe Chief Deputy Gary Fisher is on. Let me just pull him up. Okay, I don't see him. Chief Deputy Gary Fisher, if you are on, could you raise your hand, please?
He just had it raised.
Okay,
Yeah, he has it.
okay. Okay, let's see. I will take. Okay, allowed to talk. Okay.
Hello there. This is Major Chris Bash of the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office that you unmuted.
Yes. Good morning. Good afternoon, actually.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Senate Finance Committee. I'm happy to be here to answer any questions. I know Chief Deputy Gary Fisher, I believed he was on this call. He was going to kind of run point, but I am available to answer any questions we may have.
Yeah, and he's on with us too. So I guess a question that I've been getting mail that the Sheriff's Association or Sheriff's Department would have a problem handling this with the money that has been allotted that was passed by the Senate last week, which I believe was $100,000 split to $10,000 for each county. Can you address that, please?
Yes, so I am speaking on behalf of the Sheriff's Association encompassing the 10 sheriff's offices. I guess we were kind of brought to the attention late in the game on the bill, but I'm only going to speak to the financial aspects of it at this time. And that is that really with the limited information we've still had as to how much of a responsibility this could be for us, it's very difficult to determine a cost at this time. I know for us personally at the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office, there would be administrative hours and individuals that are qualified to access the Nix system. There could be additional training equipment. I know one of our sheriff's offices does not actually have their own dispatch center. So where the numbers this came up from, I'm not really sure, but that one sheriff's office, they actually have to contact the state police, I believe, to initiate their NICS checks at this time, as well as their NCIC checks. So there could be a substantial cost for that one sheriff's office, if the legislative mandate requires them to gain access in the manners prescribed. Alternatively, a large concern for us, I know the number's been thrown around, is less than 500 court orders. Obviously, that probably wouldn't be evenly distributed across the sheriff's offices due to the different populations. So a concern for us is, not necessarily, say, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office, say we engaged in 100 of these return of firearms requests. I will say ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, 99 approvals to return these are not our biggest concern. For me in our sheriff's office, and as well as the others, it's the potential litigation, lawyer, and legal expenses for even one denial. And I think it's very difficult for us to associate that cost. I know our sheriff's office, we don't have our own legal line when it comes to these types of litigation. Should we have to, bear the burden of proving or disproving the allowance for this? So there could be a tremendous downshift of uncalculable costs at this time. And that's a big concern of the 10 sheriff's associations. I'm not going to dive into some of the other concerns we have, because I know this is really focusing on the financial part of it, but we just believe there's not enough data at this time where we can predict an accurate amount of cost that could be shifted down to us. And, we would have to look at that aspect of this bill as some type of unfunded mandate that's being downshifted to us from the state.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Gaida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, thank you for joining us today. Isn't it true that the police departments across the state access the NICS for pistol permitting without charge, without fee?
I don't know what fees are associated with the NICS checks. I know us as a regional dispatch center, we obviously have some accesses to it. And I know other local police departments, especially those with either their own spots or NCIC terminals, as well as others that may have some type of regional dispatch center. I do not know off the top of my hand, Senator, what fees may be imposed on some of the local police departments, if any.
Follow up?
Follow up?
I'd like to make a comment. You stated in your testimony, Sheriff, that this bill came to you late in the game. This bill was delivered to Chief Ricciardi, who heads the Sheriff's Association, back at the end of January. I received his response the night before the bill was heard in committee. So you guys had this in plenty of time to work on it. All right. Secondly, are you aware that in the bill, there's a 6-month delay between the funding going to the sheriff's departments and actually implementing this process? And that 6 months is put there precisely to address any issues that may come before you, that may arise. Are you aware of that?
Yes, Senator, we are aware that there is a delay in the implementation.
You had expressed some concerns about immunity and things of that nature. This bill immunizes the sheriff's departments from any accountability, criminal or civil. And so I would say that is not a concern. As well, I have an amendment that will address 2 of the 4 other concerns that you had in the context of the bill rather than the financing of it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you, Sheriff. And is there anyone in attendance from judiciary? We got and I think everyone had access to this new fiscal note from judiciary, which seems to indicate some significant expense. I see Richard Head.
Hold on, Senator.
Sure.
Mr. Head, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to make sure, can you hear me okay?
We can. Good afternoon.
For the record, my name is Richard Head. I'm the Government Affairs Coordinator for the Judicial Branch.
Can you just take us through the FN, the updated FN that we received recently?
Sure. And some of this is putting more detail on my original, the original fiscal note that we submitted. Some of this is based on conversations I've had with Lieutenant McQuaid at the Department of Safety, and just running through some of the items that are listed in the fiscal note, and looking at the section on assumptions in the fourth bullet down, a relatively minor item. About 6%, well, not minor, I'm sorry, this is a different question. But as the commissioner was mentioning earlier, about 6% of our orders of protection, when they are issued, the court does not have a date of birth on the defendant. And normally those we would try to get those entered into the NICS index. We currently do not have access to the NICS index. We submit all of our data to the NCIC, which would require a date of birth. Even with the NICS index, there'd be an issue without a date of birth and trying to connect an individual to that protective order. So currently the process is, as the commissioner mentioned, to fax over to the Department of Safety the list of all of those protective orders in which we do not currently have a date of birth. As the dates of birth come in, that gets corrected, and the data is entered into the NCIC, and it comes off the fax list that goes over to the Department of Safety. If in fact we are entering data into the NICS index, it's my understanding we would also have to enter those same entries into the NCIC database, because at least as I understand it, and the commissioner may be able to clarify this, law enforcement that are in the field do not have access to a database that would pull from the NICS index, only from the NCIC, or maybe even not the III. So just a very minor item there, but there'd be some double entries of data by personnel within the judicial branch. Next bullet down is sort of a significant issue. We had flagged this in our original fiscal note, but didn't have dollars to try to connect to it, needed more data. As I understand it, and I think the commissioner hinted at this, there are the records, the criminal database within the Department of Safety of all of the cases that they have in their records. As I understand it, there are roughly 5 to 6 million entries in that database. Of those, there are roughly 170,000 matters that they do not have in their records disposition determinations. So currently, as I understand it, when Gunline gets a request, they do a search on their full database, and it comes up with one of those matters that does not have a disposition. They reach out to the clerk of the court where that originated, ask for the disposition of that matter, and if that disposition was, for example, not guilty or otherwise, null pros or otherwise not resulting in any conviction against an individual, that matter is enclosed. There's no disqualifying event associated with it because there was no conviction, at least on the federal level. If there was a conviction, that would require further research to determine whether or not there was a disqualifier associated with it, and would require some additional potential research from the court employees and other people outside of the court system. In talking with the clerks, it takes roughly 15 minutes or so to do the work that's being requested by the Department of Safety to update those records. So I estimated about 4 per hour. The issue primarily here is we have 170,000 some odd records with no disposition and therefore not recorded in NICS where there is a disqualifying event. With if Gunline is removed and those records are no longer being searched, essentially we have to front load that and do it in time for the effective date of next, I think it is, next June, maybe July, based on the amendment. So essentially that is the cost it would take in terms of clerk time to do the research on 170 some odd thousand records in order to verify whether or not there was data within those that needs to be uploaded into the next databases. In addition, it's my understanding that the other ones, which they do have disposition records of, they may not have been uploaded into NICS. And there are some number of those, which I don't know what that would be, that require research by court personnel in order to verify whether or not there is a disqualifying event that then needs to be loaded up into a NICS database. And there's a fair amount of uncertainty in my mind as to how many files those there would be and how much that would cost. What I also don't know, and I apologize for this, and we're still trying to figure this out, is whether or not there's a cost, and there may not be, and again, the commissioner may know this, for us to be able to gain access to the NICS index in order to be able to upload data. But we just need sort of access and training to be able to properly input data into the NICS index that we can currently either have access to or upload files into.
So just a question on the uploading of these 170,000 files, is that a requirement you would be subject to, or is that something that would just be needed to get NICS updated to where the gun line is now?
It's the latter, I think. So, and not all 170,000 would need to be uploaded. 170,000 roughly would need to be investigated as to which ones need to have data uploaded that are not currently in the NICS database.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee? Senator Gaida?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Head, could you please explain what no disposition means?
They don't know what the final verdict was, essentially. They don't know if it was a not guilty, if it was a plea, if it was guilty, conviction, or no prost.
So is that not a problem with the court system rather than with the NICS system?
I wouldn't say it's a problem with the court system. I think there's a lot of this,
Simple answer. If you're not putting the data into the court system, that's a no disposition, correct?
These are, as I understand it, records that are probably pre-Brady bill. So I know, at least from talking with the clerks, a lot of these are records from the 1980s, 1990s.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Mr. Chairman.
Cutting in and out.
Sorry about that. Let me see if I can move my mic, because I need, is that any better now?
Yes,
Yes,
if you
thank
can
you.
stay that way, yes.
Yep, sorry about that. So it's my understanding that a lot of these are records from my conversations with the court clerks. A lot of the questions come regarding files that are pre-Brady bill, so 1980s, 1990s. So at the time would not have been uploaded into any database. They are records that are on file with the Department of Safety as being cases, but because the Department of Safety's records do not have a disposition, they cannot, in their run and gun line, evaluate those as to whether or not there's a disqualifying event arising out of that case.
So safe to say then that, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
safe to say that that backlog exists, and it's existed now for 25 years. And we've been operating.
Essentially, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we've been operating this way now for an extended period of time with essentially no updating of those records that are archived.
No, I would disagree with that. As the data comes, so let me take a step back. As those are being investigated essentially as they come, those are being investigated, and if there's a disqualifying event, that is being uploaded onto the NICS database, and the Department of Safety's records are being updated to reflect the disposition, and that it would then be in the NICS database and no longer an open issue. So I'm assuming 10 years ago, there were more than 170,000, and that is working its way down one at a time. What this would require is essentially doing them all at once, so that we would do them now before the effective date, in order that there'd be more confidence, although I think there's still an open concern about the cases that do have dispositions but may not be uploaded into NICS. But right now, we know that there are some number of cases that are captured in the gun lines checks of the Department of Safety's database that would not get captured in the FBI NICS check, because that data is simply not in NICS today. It's being uploaded into NICS one at a time as they get flagged by the gun line.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sorry, Senator Goddard. Yes, follow up.
Thank you. Would you explain to the committee where you got $1.2 million as a cost?
Sure. I took the 170,000 based on my conversations with the court clerks. They could do one about every 15, 20 minutes. So I estimated sort of on average for an hour. And then I took the salaries and benefits of a court clerk, which comes out to about $27.87 an hour, and multiplied it by the math of doing 4 an hour to get to 170,000.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Follow up.
Didn't you just state a few minutes ago that you do these as the requests for background checks come in?
That's correct.
Then I don't see any need to do 170,000 right away. You do them one at a time as the background checks come in. Is that correct?
But if gunline is gone, then those checks would not be done, because FBI would not be searching the Department of Safety's database. So those would get skipped altogether once the FBI is involved. So my point is simply we would have to upload those before the FBI took over.
Supposing we had a direct line to the FBI?
I apologize. I don't know if I understand.
Supposing that data was accessible, if it's accessible to the gun line people, it should be accessible to the courts, no? If the courts have a portal?
You're talking about the cases for the return, or for the return of weapon petitions?
Yes.
I mean, there's two parts to it. One is that would not be the case for a handgun purchase. So the court's not involved in that at all. So a gun line that's doing a search for a handgun purchase is searching that same database, and the court would have no involvement unless Department of Safety reaches out to us. Truthfully, I don't know. I actually don't know what the answer is to your question on if the court had access to Department of Safety's database, if we separately ran a check on those at the same time the sheriff and the FBI is doing the NICS check. I don't know what that would entail. I apologize.
Follow up?
Follow up.
Is it conceivable that an employee in the court could perform the very same check that the state police are doing with the gun line, or that the sheriffs would be doing that check, since under this bill, the sheriffs will be actually involved in this with the domestic violence and other court-ordered stuff?
One, I think it would have to be the sheriffs and not the court, because again, we don't get involved at all in a handgun purchase. So it makes sense to go centralized. And then I think you would be essentially duplicating the gun line in the sheriff's offices.
Except that this bill does away with the gun line, sir.
No, I get that. I'm just talking about in terms of the function. So you're essentially, you're suggesting if the sheriffs are able to do the searches of the Department of Safety's database, do the sort of research that safety is now doing and reach out to the courts to get dispositions, that's in essence what the gun line is doing in addition to searching the NICS database.
And that's something that the sheriffs could do without $1,200,000 in costs, because you don't have to upload 170,000 records, correct? All we're doing is shifting this on the domestics only to the sheriffs.
Essentially shift the same functions that Gunline is doing over to the sheriffs. I think that's correct, if I understand you correctly.
Thank you.
But again, I think you're just duplicating the gun lines for each county sheriff.
Are there any questions from the committee, from Mr. Head?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Senator Gaida?
Thank you. If I'm correct, and I believe I am, what we just heard was that $1,200,000 is not the cost if the sheriffs are doing the job. That is no more costly than it is right now with the gun line doing the job and digging into those records that aren't uploaded yet into the database. That's what was just stated, in other words.
Mr. Chairman, can I just clarify to make sure what I said was just accurately reflected?
Mr. Head?
Thank you. And again, I won't disagree with Senator Gaida in terms of the court's role. If the sheriffs are doing what the gun line currently does in terms of searching the Department of Safety's database and is doing the research and is reaching out to the courts on the same basis that Department of Safety is currently doing, we would again be doing that over time as we currently are. I won't disagree. That cost that of searching the Department of Safety's database, I think also has other steps in addition to reaching out to the courts that Lieutenant Quaid would be able to describe better than I can. I think we are only one part of the research that Department of Safety does relative to those records. So for example, they may need to know if there is domestic violence involved or what the relationship is between the victim and the defendant. And I think, as I understand it, sometimes they have to reach out to local police to get that information. So I think there are other steps that are going on in the Department of Safety research that does not involve the courts that safety currently does on their database.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up?
Senator Gaida for a question.
Thank you. Is it not true that the searches done by the gun line presently, and that would be done by the sheriffs, are the NICS system, the III, and your court database, and therefore there'd be no additional cost to what we're doing right now?
That's actually not correct. And again, gunline folks answer this better. They're doing the NICS, the III, which I think would come up in the NICS, the faxed list of no date of birth, protective orders, and also the 5 million records that they have in the Department of Safety database. Within that 5 million record Department of Safety databases is a subset, which is 170,000 plus or minus no disposition files. Some of the other cases in which they do have dispositions still need further research because some of those are also not uploaded into the NICS databases. So if they do not get a hit on NICS, but they do on their records, they may need to do some additional research to see if there is a domestic violence relationship in that matter that would then need to be updated into NICS to update those records, but could result in a disqualifier.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is because there is so much information here and acknowledge that I guess I have some information that didn't get sent to other members and other members may have communications that haven't been distributed to the whole committee. What I'd like to do is to put a decision on this off until next week and take that time to make sure that everyone has the same information so that we're basing our decision all on the same thing. So I thank Mr. Fisher, the Major, and Mr. Head for joining us today.
Mr.
And
Chairman,
yes,
if you will, tongue in cheek, I would like to present a testimony from a person who is familiar with the cost of the gun line and is available to testify. And since we invited the Department of Safety in, and the sheriffs and the judges, I'd like this person to be able to testify at this time because he has information as well. It's very relevant.
okay. I had numerous people ask me if they could come before us and testified, and I explained to them that we were just going to recognize people to answer questions, not to take any more testimony.
This gentleman would be willing to do that.
If there's, okay, so as long as the questions are coming, and again, I'm not going to allow any further testimony. We've had the public hearing on this. So have you got somebody that's online that's?
He should be online now. His name is Sean List. He's a practicing attorney.
Okay, we'll recognize Mr. List to take questions.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Mr. List, go ahead.
Hi, this is Sean List here. Thank you for recognizing me in front of the committee.
Senator Guido.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney List, would you please explain the process of the NICS system as it's currently set up?
Well, so as it's currently set up, the gun line is simply the point of contact for the purpose of handgun purchases. Now, the reason that it's important to point out that there's simply an intermediary point of contact is, number one, by removing the state gun line and going directly to the feds, it should be the same exact check. So there really shouldn't be additional costs based upon the fact that the state gun line, although it is doing additional things, doesn't have any statutory authority to be doing these additional checks. As far as the cost of importing records into the system, that 170,000 records that are currently incorrect are concerning well beyond firearms related background checks. More specifically, if someone needs, for example, a background check for employment or security clearance or a professional license, if there's not dispositional information, essentially someone could have been falsely charged with a crime. They get a background check and it doesn't show that they were acquitted. So the 170,000 records that are incomplete, those should be updated totally separate and apart from this bill. So I don't think the cost should be imputed onto Senate Bill 141.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? Okay, thank you, Mr. List. So I will go back and say that what I'd like to do is to move on to another bill, and we will put this one off till next week, giving us a chance to share all the information we have with the other committee members. Okay, let's see, we had.
Senator, we were going to do Senate Bill 142 for Senator Birdsell.
Thank you. I was looking for that. Senate Bill 142. And Senator Birdsell on?
Hold on. Senator Bertzel, could you raise your hand, please? Okay, hold on, I'll let. Okay, Senator.
Okay, and can we remove the past speakers, please?
I just tried to do that, but if I remove them, they're gone from the Zoom.
Oh. That's interesting. Okay, Senator Birdsell, we're talking about Amendment 0642S.
That is correct. Yep.
Senator Birdsell, you recognized?
Thank you. Well, I guess for the record, I'm Regina Birdsell, State Senator for District 19, the towns of Derry, Hampstead, and Windham. And this was brought to me after we had already, well, after it had already been through eDNA. And the John Siripa and Chief Goldstein had requested that I bring this forward because the original bill, as you can see, says that all the emergency responders will go through the fire academy for their training. And in fact, the emergency personnel, like the firefighters, the dispatchers and EMTs, can go through the New Hampshire, fire academy, because they all have similar characteristics in their PTS kind of diagnosis, but the police are a little bit different. They have different categories or types of PTS. So they wanted it clarified that the emergency responders will go for the firefighters, the EMTs will all go through the New Hampshire Fire Academy, but the police officers will go through the New Hampshire Police Academy. And that's what this amendment does.
Okay. And noticing in there that it says that the, I guess retirees, I'll put it, can continue to get the training.
Right. We had the work that the commission did, we have found that PTS just doesn't stop when you retire. So it really needs to follow you throughout, pretty much throughout your life. So what we had suggested is that from the time someone is brought into an emergency responder's position, that they get initial training in it, they continue every 5 years on-site training, but in between they will get online somewhat training, which many of them are already doing. But once someone retires, oftentimes what happens is emergency responders, once they retire and they are somewhat sedentary, PTS really starts to accumulate. And that's sometimes where you get a lot of your suicides. So we had wanted to continue some of that moving forward upon retirement.
So just for clarification, when you talk about giving this training at no cost after retirement, would they just join a training class that is set up, or is one being set up especially for them?
I think that is yet to be determined. I think they're going to, the different academies will probably make a determination. My presumption would be that they should be able to sit in on those classes that they're already giving.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Rosenwald?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a similar question, but I wonder if anyone is on the call from the police or the fire academy that they could explain if it would affect the fiscal impact of the bill or not to adopt this amendment?
I know I had wanted John Sharifa to sit in, but he wasn't able to, and neither was Chief Goldstein. I don't know if they had a 1 o'clock, and since we're way past 1 o'clock, so I don't know whether they've been able to get on. But I can have them follow up with you, Senator.
Thank you.
Yep.
Further questions on the amendment? Senator Gaida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Birdsville, I'm concerned that here in finance, I don't see a fiscal note on this. And it's perhaps that I don't have the right version of it, but I'm concerned that we're going to be sending, who's going to pay for this and how? And what if you could maybe address a little bit of that, if it's possible?
Well, according to the email I received this morning from John, the governor already has it in his budget to handle this, and the contract that deals with this is with NAMI, and they, I believe the numbers are fiscal year 21, NAMI has 19,800. They've set aside for that, and so that's approximately what it's going to be costing, as far as I know. And the governor has put it in his budget. And when I spoke with the governor's office this morning, it doesn't look like the House has taken it out of the budget.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Senator Reagan, did you have one or no?
I'd like to move Amendment 642 ought to pass.
Motion by Senator Reagan,
Second.
moves 642, Amendment 642 ought to pass. That's seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Any discussion? There being none, we'll call roll. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
Yes.
Senator Gaida,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Motion carries. We're down to the bill as
I
amended.
move the bill ought to pass as amended.
Second.
Motion by Senator Reagan that Senate Bill 142B ought to pass as amended. That's seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Senator Hennessy, you're recognized.
Just second.
Thank you, Aaron. That's a double second. That's a double header. Thank you so much.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call roll. Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
Yes.
Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Motion carries unanimously. And
Thank you all.
you're welcome. And who would like to take this out?
I'll take it out.
I'll take it out. I was gonna say Senator Hennessy could take it out.
Okay. Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
you take that out.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We won't load everything on Senator Gaida.
Right. Thank you.
And was there another one, Deb, that we had we had questions for the Department of Safety?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay. Very good. Let's go to Senate Bill 133. This is omnibus legislation relative to occupational licensure.
Move ought to pass.
Motion by Senator Gaida is ought to pass, and that's seconded by Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Discussion? There being none, we'll call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
Yes,
Senator Gaida,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes, motion carries. And Senator Reagan, you want to take that one?
Sure.
Uh, Go to Senate Bill 150. It's establishing a dental benefit under the state Medicaid program.
like,
move on to pass.
second,
Okay, a motion by Senator Geider, seconded by Senator Rosenwald to move the bill ought to pass. Senator Morse, you recognized?
Yeah. I'm going to support this, but I believe we should keep this in the Senate. I mean, the House right now in health, I believe, is dealing with a back of the budget cut. It would not make sense for us to be sending these bills over to the House right now because that'll just complicate committees of conference. So anyhow, I'll support the ought to pass, but I believe after that on the floor, we should table this.
Okay. Senator Hennessy, did you have your hand up or was that for seconding before?
Yes.
Okay. Senator D'Alessandro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just arise to support the statement by Senator Morse. I understand that Division 3 is contemplating a huge back of the budget cut and is eliminating just eliminating anything and everything, and doesn't make any sense to send things over and have them just thrown in the wastebasket. I, as a member of this committee, am very concerned with what's happening in Division 3 of the budget on the House side. Very concerned. That puts a lot of weight on the Senate when that budget comes over. Thank you.
Senator Rosenwald?
thank you. As a prime sponsor, I just want to agree with Senator Morse.
Okay, thank you. Senator Morse?
Yeah, I firmly believe we worry about the Senate's positions for all the senators. The House has always found a way to balance their budget, and they don't have the same vision of finances that we get. We get March and we get April. They don't get to see that as clear as the Senate gets to see it. So I think the Senate just has to worry about the Senate's budget. So I'm not trying to say anything about the House. I just don't want to have something go over there and get killed because they've already sent the budget over to us when they have a $50 million back of the budget cut. Because it wouldn't be logical for them to pass this after they've already had a back of the budget cut. So I think it would be great for us to keep this. And there's one other bill that I thought we were going to vote on today that we would do the same thing on. But anyhow, enough said.
Senator Gaida?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have heard, I haven't seen evidence to substantiate, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, that the costs of this actually are going to be substantially less than those predicted in the fiscal note. I'm not familiar with the mechanics of that, but I've heard this, and I'd certainly be willing to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Rosenwald?
Thank you. I think what Senator Gaida is referring to is information that I think all of us got sent late last week from Bruce Berkey, who represents
Right.
Northeast Delta Dental, and it is in the committee file. Their projected cost is probably about half of what the fiscal note states per full year. This would not impact the next budget for a full year. It would probably have about 3 months worth of cost, but they do have experience with this kind of benefit in other states, and that information is in the committee file.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, the motion before us ought to pass. No amendments, ought to pass on Senate Bill 150. Seeing no more discussion, we'll take roll. Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
Yes,
Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Reagan.
Yes.
The chair votes yes, and the motion carries.
may I take it out, please?
You may.
Thank you.
And Senator Daniels, I notice, I believe it's Senator Bradley has his hand up.
Oh,
May I bring him in? Now that we've voted on it? You may have something else to say.
Senator Bradley?
Now that you voted, I'm redundant. So congratulations.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you for your help on this.
Thank you for being brief. Okay, if we go to Senate Bill 157. This is relative to children's mental health services, make an appropriation to fund positions in the Department of Health and Human Services contracts and procurement unit.
157, Senator?
I say 257?
No, I didn't hear you.
It's 157.
Thank you.
I recognize Senator Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ought to pass.
Second,
Motion by Senator Hennessy that the bill be ought to pass. That's seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for the question? Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
yes,
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, and the motion passes. And Senator Hennessy, you want to take this one out?
Yes. Thank you.
Going to Senate Bill 140.
Move ought to pass.
Second.
Motion by Senator Morse ought to pass. Second by Senator Gaida. Senator Rosenwald.
I have an amendment I would like to introduce
Okay,
from Senator Bradley and me.
and that's Amendment 0955S.
Correct.
Okay, you recognize Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I'd move amendment 0955S. And if it's seconded, I'd like to explain.
I'll second
how we
it.
got here.
I'll second it.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you. Senator Bradley and I have had discussions with the department. There's been, I think we've all been contacted by the independent case managers who've suggested that if we're going to be doing case management, it should be uniform and be licensed. The department has told us at this point they're more interested in not using this money right now for case management services, but for general homeless services. That's necessary because the cost of overnight in a shelter is about $46, and the state's currently paying $6. This would bring our ability to help the shelters up to 20. At the same time, when we get to a later bill today, Senator Bradley and I also have an amendment to look carefully at that licensing issue for case management. So I hope the committee will support this. I believe that if we adopt it, it would end up on the table and not go to the House. I'm looking at Senator Morse.
Yeah, I have the same thing on this bill, and on a bill we just voted on the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'd be in agreement with doing that and looking at it within the context of the budget.
Thank you, Senator Gaida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking to find the amendment. I'd just like to know
Oh.
what it says. I don't see it in my file, but it's probably my error.
In my, I see it in the committee drive.
It's there. It's there.
In the amendment folder for the bill.
I got it. I got the amendment. The amendment's 0955S.
Well, Senator Gaida is finding that. I do have one question on part 2, the preventive health.
Yes.
This is from federal funds. Are any of those funds intended to go to any abortion providers?
No, these on part 2, these go to the family resource centers, and they don't do any medical care at all. That they do things more like help parents figure out their finances and have more healthy family behaviors, but they're not medical providers at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Senator
you.
Gaida, you find?
I haven't found it in my file, so I'll look at it later.
Okay. Any further questions from the committee on amendment 0955S? Seeing none, we'll take roll call on the amendment. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
Yes.
Senator Gaida,
In the blind, yes.
and Senator Daniels
me.
votes yes. Motion carries on the,
Move on to pass for the amendment.
Senator Rosenwald moves Senate Bill 140 ought to pass as amended.
Second.
It's open for further amendment if there are any, and I don't see any. So we'll accept those motions from Senator Rosenwald, Senator D'Alessandro. Any further discussion on out to pass as amended? Seeing none, excuse me, Senator Gaida.
For the record, I found the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll be voting.
Yay. Hey,
Duly-
Bob.
Seek and you shall find, right?
That's right.
Isn't that thing?
Seeing no discussion, we'll start the roll call. Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
Yes.
Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Reagan.
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion carries.
May I take it out?
You may.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to go to Senate Bill. Let's see what do we got here. Let's do Senate Bill 151. This is relative to renewable energy procurement.
I would move on to pass.
Recognize Senator Hennessy first. Go
I
ahead.
just have a question. Do we have an updated fiscal note on this one?
I talked to Senator Waters this morning. I have not heard back from him, either that or he's called in while I've had my phone off. So I'm not knowledgeable of any further FN. I mean, we can put this off till put it on an addendum for next week, so we could take it up at a meeting next week. And hopefully that'll give another week to come up with an FN. And we'll stick that on an addendum for Thursday. Senator Morse?
Yeah, I had several that didn't have FNs. That's why when I sent that text to you earlier, the ones that didn't have FN reports yet, I figured we'd have to meet next week and do an addendum. I didn't think it was gonna be 141, to be honest with you, but I mean, that's just added to the list. We probably have 4 or 5 bills we have to do next week.
Right. So is it agreeable to everyone that anything that does not have a fiscal note to give us a chance to understand the fiscal implications of that bill that we will put off until next week?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Thank you. On Senate Bill 162, which is the bill I just referred to, it's a Health and Human Services omnibus housekeeping bill. There's no fiscal note, but all of the notes from the department are in the committee file. And there's really only one section that has any fiscal impact in a very long bill. So I don't know if you want to take that up today.
We have time. We could probably do that. Are we okay on the lack of fiscal notes of putting those off till next week? Okay,
Senator Daniels, can we just confirm which bills those are?
Sure.
151,
Yes.
and then what else? I just want to make sure I have the same information that you do.
149.
149. Okay.
We already have 141.
21.
What are we gonna do at 162?
Well, we can take that up next.
We do have a fiscal note on 149.
Do?
Yeah, from NNAP. It's in the email.
Oh,
But it's from while we've been in committee.
okay. Well, I guess, I think I would prefer again to put that one off so we have time to read it. Unfortunately, it seems though in the last 2 hours before we met here, we get a lot of information coming in.
I would agree with that, Senator Daniels.
Yeah, I bet you would. Okay, so I think those are the only two, unless Senator Morse, you had another one?
I lost track of what you said. So.
151 and 140.
I circled 4 bills so far. Senate Bill 141, Senate Bill 149, and Senate Bill 151, and Senate Bill 162 that we were taking up next week.
Okay. So 162 is the one that Senator Rosenwald was just talking. And that's the one, Senator Rosenwald, you said the FN just came in?
No, that's 149. Senate Bill 162 is the department's worksheets or notes are in the committee file, but there is not a formal fiscal note.
Okay.
I believe they sent it to the LBA a few weeks ago and it just hasn't been cranked out yet.
All right. Let's give LBA another week to see if they can get that, and we'll take up 162 next week. So let's go to 117.
Move on to pass.
Motion by Senator Morse, seconded by Senator Gaida, that Senate Bill 117 be ought to pass. Open for discussion.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I asked that you bring this to finance. I did a brief historical on this subject matter, and I don't want to take a lot of time because it's been a busy day. But let me just quickly go over some stuff with you to kind of elucidate my point that I don't think we should pass this bill. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Merrimack interchanges, exits 10, 11, and 12, were constructed at a cost of $48.9 million. Interchanges of the Continental Boulevard were constructed at the request of the Merrimack town officials with the understanding that these locations would be tolled and the projected costs bonded. Bonding was undertaken as part of the 1987, 1990, and 1994 series of bonds that totaled $267.6 million for capital improvements on the Turnpike system of which 47.8 million, 18% of the debt issuance was dedicated to the Merrimack improvements. The bonds were secured with the pledge of Turnpike revenue for payment of the debt service. These bonds have since been refunded at improved rates as part of the 2006 and 2012 refunding series. The original 1987 and 1990 bonds have been paid off. The 1994 series bonds have debt service payments due through 2020-24. Toll revenue funds the entire Turnpike system's operation, maintenance, R&R, state police patrol, and capital programs. The Manchester Airport Access Road interchange that was constructed in and around the Bedford Main Line Plaza opened in November of 2011. This resulted in a toll revenue loss of $2 million annually to the Turnpike system. Exit 12 ramp tolls were discontinued in July 2014. This resulted in toll revenue loss of $1 million per year. Exit 11 ramp tolls were discontinued effectively June 1st, 2020 per Governor and Council Executive Council action. This resulted in toll revenue loss of $1.4 million. The above three items effectively eliminated roughly $4.4 million of annual toll revenue. Prior to the pandemic, Exit 10 ramp tolls contributed approximately $1.3 million of toll revenue to the Turnpike system. In aggregate, the above mentioned four elements represent $57 million in lost toll revenue over a 10-year period. The pandemic, as well as the elimination of Exit 11, has had a significant impact on the toll revenue at Exit 10, with the toll revenue at Exit 10 approximately 50% lower as compared to the previous year pre-COVID levels. The Turnpike system has three major capital projects that do not get completed until 2033 under the current revenue structure. Removal of toll revenue hampers the execution and completion of major capital projects. In October of 2019, Standard & Poor's upgraded the Turnpike revenues rating system from A1 plus to AA- due to a very strong management and governance with management's conservative approach to financial and capital planning. Moody's upgraded the Turnpike system from A1 to A3. Fitch attached a rating of A1 plus with a positive outlook. All three rating agencies noted various factors that could lead to a downgrade. S&P unrestricted cash decline, Moody's removal of existing toll plazas that reduce revenue, declines liquidity, and decline in traffic. Fitch, inability to raise toll rates if traffic falls short of forecasts, violate traffic and other revenue performances. When public announcement of the Exit 11 ramp toll removal was made, a supplement to the official statement for 2019 Turnpike refunding was issued to alleviate concerns of rating agencies. The elimination of Exit 10 and further reduction in toll revenues could have a negative impact on the Turnpike rating, as well as a negative impact on future Turnpike bonding issuances or refunding. $800,000 is the cost for removal of the toll plaza, concrete abutments, concrete pad, all toll equipment at Exit 10, similar to Exit 11 and Exit 12. This would need to be completed in the fall of 2021 and the spring of 2022. $1.8 million for full removal of toll plazas, administration buildings, filling in the tunnel, and reconfiguring ramps to single lanes. This would be completed as part of the Fleet Widening Project construction of 2023. Continental Boulevard, previously known as the relocated Camp Sargent Road, was constructed in 1993 as part of the overall Merrimack Exit 10 interchange work to support the major development in the area and provide a direct connection to both Exit 10 via Industrial Drive and to Exit 11 via Continental Boulevard. The town maintains Continental Boulevard from exit 11 to Industrial Drive. The Turnpike system plows and maintains the 2-mile section of Continental Boulevard from Industrial Drive to New Hampshire 101A. The Turnpike system spends approximately $75,000 annually to plow and maintain this section of road, and in 2017 repaved 2.6-mile section, expending $689,000 out of the R&R program. This section is a superfluous element of the Turnpike system, particularly if the toll plaza at exit 10 is removed. The Turnpike system consists of 89 miles. The Central Turnpike is 39.5 miles. It's 44% of the system. The Turnpike funds DOS at $8.3 million in FY 2020 and $9.3 million in 2021. The budget for 2022 is $9.5 million, and for 23 is $9.5 million. COVID revenue impacts over the period were $14.9 million in 20 and a minus $23.4 million in 21. Traffic and toll revenues pre-pandemic had one situation. Post-pandemic, we're looking at something else. As you can see, when this construction took place, there was an arrangement that definitely gave significant positive impact to Merrimack. I mean, just the Continental Boulevard and the redirection of Camp Sargent Road. I think we ought to take two things become very imperative to me. A, the bond rating for the Turnpike. That's essential. And the loss of revenue will have an effect on the bond rating. Our Turnpike system is very well managed. It's very well run. And in most situations, pre-COVID-19, was the wonderful entry into New Hampshire. I've heard it said many times, when they come to New Hampshire, the roads are black and well paved. I think that the elimination of this toll could cause serious harm to the Turnpike Authority and our ability to fund the Turnpike. And I just think it's a very important issue and something that we shouldn't take lightly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry to be so long, but I think all of that information is essential.
Thank you. Senator Morse.
He was long and he was right, but the reality of the fact that I started back in the late 90s with my first debate about a bridge on the western side of the state that still had $3 million in debt on it, that the debt was eliminated because New Hampshire believed it was the right thing to do for that community. And then the next debate that they had right after that was right in Nashua, where the toll was under the ground, and I believe, and they eliminated the toll, and that was $6 million in revenue a year that was eliminated, and they already built part of the road. I think this is a fairness issue, Lou, more than anything. I've been here long enough to know we've debated Merrimack 1,000 times. We certainly have revenues coming right now that will go to DOT for sure on making sure that we can build roads in New Hampshire. As for the formulas and making sure that we satisfy the bonding requirements in New Hampshire and everything. Look, we've done this right along. We're good at it. I mean, Senator Roush got something by me at one point in time that created a whole bunch of money, and the reality is we used it to our advantage, to almost $100 million worth of road work. So I think it's the right thing to do. I only cited those two other communities because we did it for them because, House members at the time thought it was the right thing to do. And we eliminated that debt. I think this is one that's long overdue, quite honestly, because I've been here long enough. So anyhow. I support it.
I'd just like to add one minute to that. Just a quick history back in 2014, when they took out exit 12, they did so by because it was attached to a gas tax increase. So I don't know that, and I think that's what Senator Morse was referring to, that you actually gained more out of the gas tax increase than you did in losing the toll. Back when exit 11 was taken out a couple of years ago, it was costing the state 93 cents to collect 50 cents there. So it was actually a positive for the state by removing that. I have, if you read the hearing report, right now exit 10 is barely getting enough to cover the maintenance on it. And I have been talking to the deputy secretary about taking the administration buildings that had those tolls at exit 12. And I think you could probably do the same thing with exit 10, is instead of spending the money to tear them down, my understanding is that DOT has the ability to sell those off to a private concern. So instead of taking the money to demolish the building, you actually gain money through the sale of the building, and the town gains by taxes that can then be put on property taxes of the person who buys and establishes a business in that place. I think that the small amount of money that you may lose in this, I think will come back with tourism. It's up to us to get that going again. And we'll be talking a lot about that later in the session, particularly as we get into the budget. But then just as equally to all that, I think it's about keeping our promise that when things were put in 30 years ago for that toll, the bonds expired in 2020. And I think the state ought to keep its promise and take them out now that they have expired. Any further discussion?
If I could just make one point out, I agree with Senator Morse about a fairness issue, but remember when we increased the gas tax, we were going to use that money efficiently and effectively, and come the end of the TIFIA situation, we're going to have to use that money to pay back the principal on the TIFIA loan, which we took from the federal government, and that's where all of that money is going to go. Now that TIFIA loan was a great one. We got it at a wonderful percentage, but we've been paying interest on it for we're doing that right now. We'll continue to do that for 5 years, and then the interest in principal will be paid. That's significant. That's going to take most of the money from the gas tax increase. I just have one last thing to say. We still plow the road. We spent $600,000 to repave it. All of those belong to the town. And in opening up that road, we allowed the town to get digital equipment, and we allowed them to get Fidelity that collect a significant tax from both of those entities. And I agree with Senator Morse about fairness. I think we ought to have fairness. But fairness also means that when you make a significant improvement, maybe that improvement should be taken over by the town and maintained by the town. And as I said, we did repave it. We do plow it every year, and we've done that since the day when that road was constructed. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Senator Morse, and I realize.
You just gave me a tutorial in finance. I wrote that book.
Senator Morse, I am trying to aid you in your visionary concepts, which I know are wide and varied. I just want to be a little part of them.
I just want to make it clear I didn't vote for that gas tax, okay? Even though Roush is one of my best friends.
Well, but sometimes the good wisdom prevails. That's all.
Any further discussion from the committee? There being none, we'll call roll. The motion is ought to pass on Senate Bill 117. Senator Morse?
Yes.
Senator Gaida?
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald?
No.
Senator Hennessy?
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro?
No.
Senator Reagan?
Yes.
And Senator Daniels votes yes. The motion passes 5-2. And I'll take that one out since I haven't got my name on anything yet. And okay, I know that we lose Senator Morse in 7 minutes. Is that enough time to go through Senate Bill 132? Or do we put that off till the next time? Senator Hennessy?
Thank you, Madam, Mr. Sorry, Chairman Daniels, I have an amendment for 132. It came to me like at 11:30 today. I apologize for the very late introduction of it.
I don't think I have that amendment, Aaron.
Do we want to try to fit that in, or can we get through the whole thing in now 6 minutes?
Well, listen, you can vote on this without me, but
Okay.
I put off a 3 o'clock meeting till 3:30. I don't think I can do it again.
I appreciate your optimism.
It's in the
No, you can
OneDrive.
vote on it without me. I'll step off.
All right.
Why don't I
I
step
have
off
the
already? 'Cause
amendment,
It's in
What's
the
that?
OneDrive.
but I can't.
Did you get
able
the
to
amendment,
open
Cindy?
The amendment.
The amendment, is it in the OneDrive now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Senator
May I speak
Hennessy,
to the-
you want, did we have a second on Senator Hennessy's?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Senator Gaida, seconds amendment 0961S. And Senator Hennessy, why don't you just give us a synopsis of the,
Sure. So what I did with the amendment is similar to what we had with the broadband fund. We have a lot of money coming in from the federal government, and we don't know what the restrictions are going to be on it, or if there's going to be specific funds coming in for specific purposes. And so for that reason, the amendment puts on sections 1 and 3 of the bill, puts $1 where there was previously a dollar amount.
and keeps part 2 at 250,000.
Yes, it does.
I'm sorry, what did Chairman Daniels say?
It said part 2, the nursing home assessment, it keeps it at the full amount of 250,000.
Mhm.
Any discussion on the amendment?
So just one, if I might. So
Yeah.
this micro enterprise relief fund, Aaron, what have you done with that? Is
I
that,
didn't change any of the fund wording. It's nothing changes except for the actual dollar amount allocated. And that's changed to $1 until we see what's coming in from the federal government.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Further discussion? You ready for the question? We'll call roll. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes,
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
No,
Senator Gaida,
Yes,
Senator Morse,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Motion is adopted. We're down to now Senate Bill 132 ought to pass as amended.
I'll move it ought to pass as amended.
second,
Moved by Senator Hennessy, seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Discussion? Being none, we will call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Gaida,
yes,
Senator Rosenwald,
yes,
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
yes,
Senator Reagan,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Motion carries. And who would like to take this out? Senator Hennessy. And that, folks, I think completes our business for today.
Senator Daniels,
Yes,
may I just review with you the, what I have as 4 bills that we will be doing next week?
yes,
I have Senate Bill 141 FN. I have Senate Bill 149 FN. I have Senate Bill 151 FN and Senate Bill 162 FN.
that is correct.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, is there a motion to come out of executive?
So
So
session?
moved.
Second,
Moved by Senator Rosenwell, seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. We'll call roll. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Gaida,
yes,
and the chair votes yes. We are out of non-public,
adjourn.
executive session. A motion by Senator Gaida to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Senator Rosenwald. Call roll. Senator Reagan,
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Gaida,
Yes.
and chair votes yes, and we are adjourned, and we thank the public for joining us today, and have a great day, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice job.